Welcome to Rewatch and Rank. On this channel, we rewatch older TV shows, provide a summary and opinion on the episode before ranking each of the episodes against each other. Today's episode is Merlin Season 1, Episode 9, Excalibur. Episode in a nutshell is just a brief summary of exactly what happens within this episode. Nimue resurrects Tristan Dubois to kill Uther in a duel, but no mortal blade can kill a wraith, and so Merlin makes a deal with Kilgara to forge Excalibur for Arthur, but Uther uses it instead to win, breaking their deal and requiring Merlin to hide the sword in the Lake of Avalon. After rewatching the episode, I then rank the episode on two lists. The first is a mostly objective list, which doesn't include an emotional response, but bias and judgment do still apply. And then the personal list, which is the emotional feelings towards the episode. So we start with our mostly objective rank values, and I've highlighted those that I felt applied to this episode. We have our single episode supporting character introductions, where we have Sir Owain and Sir Pellinor, who first take up the dual challenges on behalf of Uther and Arthur so that they don't have to. Both of them, unfortunately, do lose their duels to the death. And then we have Tristan Dubois, who is, of course, the villain of the episode. He, in the past, was Arthur's uncle, Igraine's brother, who basically blamed Uther for his sister's death and therefore challenged him to single combat to the death back in the day, which Uther ended up winning at that time. And now Nimue has returned and has brought Tristan back from the dead so that he can get his revenge on Uther as a wraith instead. And that is our main conflict for this episode, Tristan searching for revenge for his sister on his sister's behalf. Each of those characters are worth 1 point each, bringing us to 3. And then we have our multi-episode supporting character development, which is to do with Nimue. Nimue, we have met her before, and her motivations have been somewhat ambiguous. We obviously knew she had a grudge against Uther, but it wasn't really clear why. We know it had to do with the past. We know it had to do with the magical purge. We knew it had to do with all the laws outlawing magic and Uther's hatred of magic, but we never truly understood why she was acting as she was, and more importantly, why she was acting out against Arthur rather than Uther. However, in this episode, that is clarified. She is the one who allowed Arthur to be born using magic, as Igraine was barren and unable to have children, and so she used magic to allow Igraine to conceive and carry a son to be Uther's heir. However, while they were told that there would be a price to this magic, because magic demands a balance, demands that if a life is created, that one be taken, Uther did not realize that the one that would be taken would be his wife, whom he loved a great deal. Though later on, we do call that into question because we learn some things about Morgana, but that's spoilers for the future. So basically, he claims that he loved his wife, and as a result of losing her, he went insane, blaming Nimue for doing it on purpose when she did not do it on purpose, and then went on his hunt to kill all of the magic users within his kingdom, which of course were a lot of Nimue's friends and loved ones. They were her people, and she had been like the court sorceress, I guess, as part of Uther's court, which is why he went to her, and he was the one who kicked her out after this tragedy occurred. And so one of the questions, obviously, that people will ask is, well, why are you trying to destroy what you had created that had caused all this? Like, why are you going after Arthur instead of Uther? And the fact of the matter is, because she has lost so many people she loves and seen so many people that she loves suffer, She no longer cares about Arthur's great destiny, that he's the once and future king, that he is the king who could reunite, bring magic back to the country and unite all of the country as Albion. She's just now devolved into a character that's after revenge against Uther, and what does Uther love most? Arthur. Therefore, she is trying to kill Uther and also Arthur as she goes. So, I mean, we get an insight into her character motivations. Are they the best motivations ever? Revenge never really is, but we at least get more of an understanding of the character, which I do like because Nimue is a character that I do enjoy. And that brings us 2 points more, so up to 5, and then our next one is the multi-season supporting character growth, and I feel like this comes with Uther. I feel like in this episode, Uther did sort of not accept responsibility for everything, but he definitely accepted responsibility for bringing this particular event to be. Nimue approaches him once Arthur accepts the duel. They have a conversation, and I feel like he accepts responsibility that it is him that Tristan is trying to kill, that his son is about to die for him, that he doesn't want that to happen, and so he is going to accept the responsibility and take Arthur's place and die for him like Igraine had done before him, because Uther feels that Arthur's life is more important than his own because he is his son. And I feel like this does show character growth in that he is maybe not behaving in the most narcissistic way that we have seen him behave in the past. Though it is minor growth because he's accepting basically responsibility specifically for the situation, not for the fact that he has basically brought magical evils down on everybody by hunting them down and making them all want to seek revenge. You know, you create your own enemies. He doesn't really accept responsibility for that, but in this case, he accepts responsibility for the Tristan de Bois situation and therefore is willing to take Arthur's place. And that is worth 3 points, which brings us to 8. And then with another 3 points bringing us up to 11, we have the successful emotional impact. Now, there's different types of emotions that can be elicited through TV screens. And the one I got from this one was so basically at the end of the episode, after Uther has kind of managed to destroy Tristan de Bois, won his duel, Arthur comes in and he's upset, and Uther basically tells him that you are the thing that I cherish and love the most. You are worth more than my life, more than this kingdom. I would not have ever let you fight to the death against Tristan de Bois when you most likely didn't have a chance to win because he was a wraith. And then Arthur's kind of like, I've always assumed I was a disappointment to you. And Uther then goes on to say that that is his fault, not Arthur's, and that he's not a disappointment. And honestly, I awed out loud at this. I was like, oh, this is so cute. It's an adorable scene. A father-son bond, them having like a little bit of a heart-to-heart. And he basically tells like Arthur that he is his son, he wouldn't wish for another. And they have this like bonding moment, then they start like kind of play fighting and tussling, and I was just like, "Aw." Like that's the feeling. It was just like, "Aw, that is so adorable. That is so nice. That is so sweet. That is so father-son goals." And while it's not like a happiness or a sadness, it's a feeling of cuteness on the screen. But it did successfully impact my emotions, making me awe out loud. Therefore, the emotional impact was successful, and it counts. And then we move on to our next one, which is, of course, our multi-season main character development. At the very start of the episode, we open up on Arthur being officially crowned as the Crown Prince. Not just a regular prince, but now he is the Crown Prince because he has officially come of age. That is also noted, which means that at any point in time, should Uther pass on, Arthur then will be able to assume the role of king and be of age to do so without a regent, for example. So that obviously is a bit of development for Arthur, which is worth 4 points. And then our last positive, worth yet another 4 points, is the world building. In this episode, we obviously learn the secret of the start of the war and what that history between Nimue and Uther is, what caused all of the magic ban and magic laws, magic executions. We learn the source of that secret that has been taken. We learn that a law of magic in the universe is that a balance needs to be maintained. If you take a life or give a life, then one must be taken. And then we also get the forging of Excalibur, which obviously is an integral part to the legend of Arthur. No matter what adaptation is being done of the legend, Excalibur typically is always a part of that. Very famous sword, probably the most famous sword because it's the only sword that I know of that isn't like from a TV show or like a book or something, but like that actually is founded in like a real world legend. It's the only one I know the name of. And I know there are other named swords that are famous, but this one I would say is the most famous because even somebody who hasn't taken the time to look up named swords will know this name. So obviously Excalibur's forging is a pretty big moment. And then at the end of the episode, the sword then, because it can cause great evil in the wrong hands, and Merlin has lost trust due to his own actions, which I will speak about shortly. He then takes the sword and he hides it in the Lake of Avalon, where we had previously seen Sophia and her father summoning the Sidhe in order to hide it and keep it out of any other hands besides Arthur's. Which brings us to our really only negative for the episode was negative messaging or behavior, and there was unfortunately quite a bit of it in this episode. So we have obviously Merlin making promises that he isn't able to keep. And this is, of course, a negative messaging behavior just in general. Now, personally, which I know this is the objective list, not the personal list, but because it is relevant here, I'm going to give my little rant early. Personally, I have always had the belief that you should never speak in absolutes unless you are absolutely sure. Because if you say you are going to do something, that you will do something, you have made a verbal promise to somebody that that thing is going to occur. And if you are not certain that you can keep that promise, if you do not know if that is able to be done, I think it is incredibly irresponsible to make that verbal promise to someone, even if you're not legally bound by your word. You should not be lying to people, and that can be damaging. So, in my opinion, if you are not certain, if you are not absolutely sure that you can follow through on what you are saying, don't speak in an absolute. Say that you will try. Say that you will do your best. Say that you will do what was within your power. Hedge your bets and make sure that there is a way out and that there is no absolute guarantee. That way, if something doesn't pan out because you're not sure if it's going to, you haven't broken a promise and you aren't really. The other person would have been expecting that something may go wrong. There is still that expectation because you haven't spoken in an absolute. You have hedged your bets essentially. And I think that that is the way that they should do things. In this case, Merlin makes an absolute promise that he is going to make sure that that sword is only used by Arthur. And almost immediately, Uther takes it because he is the king. And Merlin, when he goes back to Kilgar and is accused of betraying him, he's like, he's the king. What was I supposed to do? Well, the fact is, you weren't supposed to promise then, if you could not keep that promise, that Arthur was the only one who would use the sword. If there was a chance that it would fall into Uther's hands, you should have done everything that you could have to stop it. But you also shouldn't have promised that it would just be Arthur, because now you have lost the dragon's trust, whom you've been going to for help and advice on frequent occasions. And obviously, Uther, in the hands of Uther, the reason the dragon wanted it just for Arthur is because Uther will commit great evil with a sword like that, and he wants to try to avoid that if at all possible. So that is why he made Merlin promise, and then Merlin breaks the promise, and that's incredibly negative behavior. There's also the fact that Gaius and Uther conspire behind Arthur's back after he has put his honor on the line to claim that he is going to duel Tristan. And then they have the okay, I understand the intentions were good. They want to save Arthur's life, and that is a good thing. But the way they go about it is they essentially send Gaius, who is a trusted authority figure, to bring Arthur a potion that will put him to sleep. He is fed the potion without the knowledge of what it does, i.e., being drugged. Then Gaius leaves and locks him into his room so that he cannot go and fight. Now, to be fair, Arthur was very stubborn about being the one to fight. He was not willing to back down. Uther did not want him fighting. And so, like I said, I understand the intentions behind this drugging and imprisonment was good. It was to save his life. But at the same time, drugging someone and imprisoning them is never good behavior. And so it still counts as a negative behavior. And then just kind of on a lesser note, really, Uther kind of did steal Arthur's glory and the sword that was made specially for him, which theft, not cool. And even though it's a theft of glory and the sword, and again, and I understand the intentions behind it, obviously Merlin can't come out and say this is a magic sword that can kill the dead, so Arthur will be fine, let him fight without getting killed himself. I still think, like, once he heard that the sword was for Arthur, and made specially for Arthur and was a gift for Arthur, Uther probably should have used a different sword. I mean, that would have resulted in his death. But even so, just because your child is your child does not mean that you have a right to their things, to just take their things when they are gifted something or buy something for themselves. I'm just saying. That's also negative to me. But either way, even with those negatives, the positives outweigh them, and it is, in the end, a 10 out of 10 episode. So as a reminder of our episode ranking so far, in first place we have, oh wait, before I get into that actually, when episodes on the objective list get the same score as other episodes, they are always ordered in episode order that they aired in, because there's no way on the objective list to score like decimal points to see which ones within the same tens, for example, or nines, eights, sevens, etc. were better than the others. So having said that now, first place we had the Dragon's Call, second, The Beginning of the End, third, Excalibur, fourth was Lancelot, fifth was Valiant, sixth, The Poison Chalice, seventh, The Gates of Avalon, eighth, The Mark of Nimue, and in last place, ninth, we have A Remedy to Cure All Ills. So now we come to the personal ranking, which is, again, more emotion-based and how I felt about the episode. I did say a lot of what I wanted to say on the objective ranking because it just happened to fit there well. But once again, I'll just reiterate, don't make promises you can't keep. This is how trust issues come about. It's just respectful that if you do not feel that you can hold to a commitment that you are making, don't make it in the first place. But if you have to absolutely say something, say it in a way that does not make a promise you cannot keep. I will just say that again. Now, I did like that this, well, I'm torn on this. Okay, so I felt like it had a very serious tone. We were learning a lot of secrets. I like getting to be in on the secrets, and I don't really like it when they keep me in the dark. I don't care if they keep the other characters in the dark, but as the audience, I like to know what's going on. So I'm glad that we're in on the secrets now, even if Arthur doesn't know the secret of his birth yet. We do, and I feel good about that. And I also like that there was a bit of a more serious tone to this episode. A lot of times when Merlin is doing the nosiness and the sneaking around, trying to solve magical problems without getting caught for having magic himself. There is a very comedic element to it in a lot of the episodes. There's a lot of shenanigans that ensue. And I felt like in this episode, they really toned that down and kept it out. The only real funny scene was when Tristan DeBow just kind of rides his horse indoors. And I think that that was supposed to look epic. But to me, it just looks silly because I'm like, why are you riding a horse indoors? Especially when we see later that he can separate from the horse. There was no reason to ride the horse inside. I know they were going for epic. They failed. It went into comedy. But that was really the only time that there really was a comedic moment within this episode. I felt like they kept the tone very serious. They were revealing a lot of information that is serious in nature. It's obviously a serious situation with the dead coming back to try to get revenge. So there wasn't a lot to laugh at. And the serious nature of it was dramatic. I like the comedy in the series a lot more than I like the serious side of the series. I feel like the comedy is kind of what makes it worth watching, given all of the changes that they made to the original source materials. It's the comedy that kind of makes that worth it and makes sense. So when they go real serious like this, it's just not as enjoyable as the comedic moments in the other episodes. I felt that this episode overall was kind of average. Obviously, there was a lot of negatives, but there were also positives. I got to learn secrets. I like knowing secrets. And so I decided to bring it to a 5 out of 10 as sort of a reasonable. Okay, I don't know what I'm saying. A reasonable. I felt that that was a reasonable score to give, I think, is what I'm trying to say. Anywho, our personal rankings so far for season 1. In first place, we have the Poison Chalice. In second place, the Dragon's Call. In third place, we have the Gates of Avalon. In fourth place, we have Lancelot. Fifth was the Beginning of the End. This episode, Excalibur, falls into sixth place. Seventh is Valiant. Eighth was the Mark of Nimue. And in ninth, we have A Remedy to Cure All Ills. So this brings us to our final segment of the video where we are looking at the series ranking so far. Series ranking is where we are ranking each of the seasons against each other. And we do that by finding the score based on each episode's individual scores. They're added up. And then we find out what the percentage score of the episode is, which will then allow us to compare each of the seasons against each other. And for season 1 so far, we are adding 10 to our objective list, which brings us up to 62 out of 130. And on the personal side, adding 5 brings us to 57 out of 130. And with that, we've now rewatched and ranked Merlin Season 1, Episode 9, Excalibur. Like and subscribe if you'd like to, and I'll see you in the next episode.